Thank you. Good morning. Hello, fellow refugees. Great to be here.
I love that term.
Let's start with some quick introductions and what you're focused on. Jessica, start us off.
Sure thing. Hi, everybody. I'm Jessica Scramali. I'm a VP of Product Strategy and AI Go-to-Market at Oracle. So my team drives awareness and adoption of the AI features that we build into our applications.
Swaroon?
And I'm Swaroon. I'm a product manager at Robinhood, and I work on active trading products, but recently I've started working on AI products for active traders.
And I'm Jeff Wilser. I host two podcasts, The People's AI and AI Curious. My North Star is to try and bring clarity to the AI space. And one thing I love doing is talking to people who are actually using AI effectively in workflows, like not hype, not tomorrow, not in a whiteboard, right now. I also love it when we're speaking to like red blood, like true non-kind of AI native startups, right? You guys, obviously, your companies have massive scale. So I'm really curious to dive into what's working, what's not. Where is our substance? Where is like, oh, lessons learned. Jess, where have you found the most promising applications of AI solutions and workflows in your actual day-to-day? Kind of what have you been able to do with that?
Sure. So Oracle, we are actually our own biggest customer when it comes to using the AI that we build into our back office software. And if you had asked me a couple of years ago where I thought we'd see the most traction the quickest, I would have assumed a function like finance or supply chain, structured data, quantifiable ROI. Where we've actually seen a lot of leadership is from our HR team. And I think a lot of that has to do with risk tolerance. There's an array of AI features across the risk spectrum, especially in HR when you think about bias and regulatory concerns. But there's also a bunch of kind of simple automation and AI use cases where pretty good is good enough. And so that we've gotten a lot of traction with things like performance review, kind of synthesis, like goal setting, populating your profile internally, scheduling interviews when you're recruiting, really simple use cases, but very targeted use cases where, the leadership mindset is let's just get out there, iterate, and we're okay if it's not perfect. So
one of the best advice I've heard is folks saying is start small and start internal because the stakes are low. If we make mistakes, we can kind of iterate. That makes sense. Swaroon, it's a great segue though to your world is very different, right? Like when you have customer capital on the line, that's not internal, that's not starting small, that's really high stakes.
Yeah.
How have you navigated that, and what are the ways that you have injected AI into your systems?
Yeah. So I actually think we're doing both in parallel. So we are kind of like building out AI capabilities internally. At the same time, we're building AI for customers. And I think we're learning a lot about AI through that process. I'd say internally, it's similar to what Jess mentioned, which is like we're starting with small various use cases across the company. So like, one thing recently that I did was I installed like an AI note taker when I take interviews, which helps me a lot because that means I don't have to take notes. I can focus more on the candidate. That's a small use case. I'd say more broadly, engineers are obviously using AI a lot. I've talked to a lot of engineers who say like they don't code anymore. I think that's a common thing. A lot of you have probably heard. For me, as a product manager, I use AI really with every decision I make. So it used to be that when I made a decision, a lot of that was on me. If somebody else around me had time to talk through that decision with me, I'd get a second opinion. Otherwise, I would just make the decision myself. Now, I always get a second opinion. I always go to AI or like just ChatGPT, enterprise ChatGPT, always get like useful input. As for customers, I think it's a little bit of a different game. There's less like of a willingness for us to make mistakes. So we have a long dog fooding process for any.
All right, let's pause there. Peel back the curtain. Jessica in the green room mentioned, she asked, are you guys dog fooding? And as a term, how many folks here use the term dog fooding as a verb? All right, I'm seeing maybe
Okay.
10%. So
I didn't
Jessica,
make it up. I was like, I didn't.
So
I didn't-
can you unpack a bit what dog fooding means and how it's used in the Oracle context?
Yeah, so dog fooding is eating your own dog food or drinking your own champagne. So, as product managers, we're building AI into the products that we sell and deliver to customers, but we're also using it to run our business. And so that was a little bit of what I was speaking to a minute ago about. Our ability, our appetite to turn on the features that we've built and test them first and then see real value and go through an entire governance process just like our customers are doing.
I'd love to get a little more concrete on how this process starts with you guys. When you're thinking about AI in a use case or for a product, what's kind of the design flow like? Are you whiteboarding first? Okay, here are all the things we can do, which doesn't make sense, and then we have kind of a robust kind of like you go through it and figure out what to focus on, or do you just like start vibe coding immediately and then kind of look at what's working, what's not? Talk about what the actual kind of mechanics are on that front. Soren.
Yeah, I can talk about it. So I think the way we see AI at Robinhood is that it's like a new technological primitive. And any problem that we want to solve for customers, we now have one additional like really powerful tool that we can use to solve that problem. And so like the set of problems we want to solve for customers is the same, but where we think about applying AI is like, where do we think AI can make like a step change in solving this problem for customers, where just using like 2.0 or like traditional technology wouldn't create as good of a solution?
Jess?
Yeah, I'd say at the start, it was a little bit like hammer nail syndrome, right? It's like, oh my gosh, AI, what can we build with it? Which I don't think was the right approach. But after that kind of settled down, we really kind of take a top-down and bottom-up approach to product development and strategy when it comes to AI, just like we did our legacy software features. So a lot of it is feedback we're hearing from customers, feedback from our internal team since we're customer zero, and then really coming at the problem space with a deep understanding of the workflows and where there's actual friction, i.e. problems to solve or jobs to be done, where we can measure the output and feel really confident that if we move the needle with AI, there is a needle to move, and we can showcase that and observe and measure that for ourselves and for the customer. So there's kind of a two-pronged approach, but we have some design principles. We design for outcomes and measurement. We design with integration in mind, meaning like we're building it directly into the application. We're not doing some bolt-on Frankenstein thing with the AI. And then we design for trust, and in the enterprise space, that's huge. So explainability, transparency, all of that. So that's kind of the mindset we have when it comes to AI product development.
I'm glad you mentioned measuring and metrics. Soren, what kind of metrics do you guys use to quantify and track the effectiveness and ROI? How are you keeping track of that?
Yeah, I think it's highly product dependent. So I mean, consistent with like what I said before, which is we just see AI as a technological primitive. The metrics that we're measuring for AI success, at least as far as products, are the same metrics that we've measured for product success. And that depends on, like what that metric is, depends on the product and what it's trying to solve. So for example, we have a digests feature in the Robinhood app where for every stock, you can see like a summary of news like up to the minute on that stock so that you can explain why the price has moved the way that it has. For that, we might look at, how often are users who are using the digest coming back to the app? Like we have like a thumbs up, thumbs down sort of feedback mechanism on that. We might look at what percentage of those are thumbs up. Also, we just kind of like do a vibe check on all of our products. So we read what customers are saying about it. People talk about Robinhood on X and other platforms. They reach out to customer service and they tell us about the product. So if customers love the products, we think it's successful. So yeah, that's sort of how we're measuring it. Yeah.
Jessica, what kind of metrics do you guys use?
Yeah, so we look at three dimensions, really. Adoption, efficiency metrics, and then some quality proxies. So adoption is like, are people using the feature, but also are they coming back and using it again? Is it sticky? Efficiency is, hours or minutes saved, a reduction in tickets. There's a number of efficiency and productivity metrics depending on the use case. And then quality proxies are we try to get into like business outcomes where we can measure them, time to hire, amount of skills added to a profile, things like that. What we're still figuring out is kind of the trust dimension of ROI or of metrics. So we're starting to we collect feedback in the user flow, thumbs up, thumbs down, and some qualitative feedback from end users. But ultimately, we want to get to a place where we can see, did the user use the output that we suggested? Did they have to course correct or intervene in some way? Things like that. So we're still on the journey.
I can add one thing too. I mean, what I mentioned was sort of like success metrics for the product. We're also measuring metrics to understand like correctness and trust of the AI solution as well. So we have evals for our AI products, and we design them intentionally to communicate like, did the AI succeed at what it was trying to do? So for example, if we're building a conversational AI product where it builds you a technical indicator, that's one that I built, the evals might look something like, did the AI fully understand the customer's prompt? So was there any part of it that it left out? Or when the AI communicated what it was going to build for the customer, did the code actually match exactly what the AI said, or were there any differences? And then some of them are like, some of those things are kind of, a human will have to read it and judge it, and eventually we can scale such that another LLM can make that
Well,
judgment.
I'm wondering, who is filling out these eval forms, AI or humans?
So yeah, it's a good question. So
AI, you're doing a good job, AI.
So at first, this was actually a big learning point for Robinhood. At first, what we were doing was using LLMs for those evals. So we would build an AI product, like prompt another LLM to check these things. Like, did the AI response match the customer's prompt? Did the AI code match the spec that the AI laid out, et cetera? But we started realizing we didn't trust the LLM's response, because we would read the conversation, we were like, this didn't pass, but the LLM passed it. And so what we learned is, the first step now that we're doing when we launch an AI product is we are judging it, and we are doing the evals, and then we're sort of like training the LLMs on our responses, and we're error correcting what the LLMs say with what we say. And over time, that actually improves how well the LLM as a judge does at scoring the AI responses, and then we can kind of trust what they output. Then when we launch the product at scale and it's serving hundreds of thousands of customers, we can trust the LLM's response, and we don't need to read every single customer prompt.
I love that. Before we get into the challenges and governance side of this, I'm going to give you guys a brief moment to just brag. Talk about some of your favorite, coolest AI tools you've built. I think the reason I ask is it's so easy to get lost in the abstractness of this all. Can you share a little more about some specific things you guys have built and the time it saves or the additional service and innovation it unlocks?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah. I think Robinhood's already shipped a few really awesome AI products. I mean, I mentioned one, that's the Digest. I use that every single day. So I mentioned it before, but you go on the stock page or crypto page, whatever, on Robinhood, and you can see a digest that explains why the price moved today. So that's something that I think people had a question about, why prices moved in a particular direction for years. You would go to the app, see a big price move, you'd have to like Google the stock, and sometimes you'd get a clear answer, sometimes you wouldn't.
Why has it going down, Swerin? Why is it going down? Can you let us know?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the stock. I think I looked at one, I often look at the Robinhood stock one, actually, and that's really insightful. But I think that in that case, I really love that product. It solved the problem that I think was really hard to solve for many, many years. But yeah, that's probably the best example I can think of.
Jessica, how about you?
Yeah, so it's great sitting where I sit in the market and at Oracle, because a lot of the AI we're building is not, it's not the subject of a breathless LinkedIn post inspiring folks, but it is actually creating real value. There's a lot of like very targeted, almost internal AI-driven automation that we're putting into place that saves real minutes and hours. One of my favorites is probably in the recruiting space, where there's a number of different AI use cases and AI agent-driven workflows that can come together and make the end-to-end experience for both the candidate that's seeking a job at a company and the company that's looking for talent kind of find better matches and accelerate the time to hire, get butts in seat faster. So it's not like sexy demoware per se, but it's kind of these incremental innovations that we've woven in right where the work is happening that is really showing real value. So I find that exciting. I mean, I do work at Oracle, so that's what we do.
Well, for what it's worth, I've interviewed on the AI Curious podcast, head of AI for LinkedIn, IBM's chief scientist, Upwork CEO, and it's a through line I've heard a lot. And it does not make headlines, but the answer, when you really talk to folks, is it's often the unsexy, under the hood stuff that saves real time and solves real problems. So totally agree with both of what you're saying. What do you find most challenging, and what are the biggest tech challenges? And what are any non-tech challenges? Where have things gone sideways, and where this is not quite ready for prime time? Saroon, what is the biggest challenge for you guys?
Yeah, I guess the tech challenges that I feel like I'm running into are that, AI I found is really great at making inferences on data that it's been trained on, right? So it has an enormous corpus of like text that humans have written that almost like comprises human knowledge and whatnot. And then it has an enormous corpus of Python and JavaScript and very commonly written coding languages that it can write code in. But when you ask it to write a language that's like domain specific, which we have some of that at Robinhood, that's where it struggles a little bit, and we have to do a lot of work to like error correct, give it a lot of examples, give it a lot of documentation, and eventually we can get it to work. But that's somewhere that I think it takes a little bit of time, and it's not as like magical as people might expect when they expect AI to code. So that's like a technical challenge. I'd say a non-technical challenge is that I think the direction that AI is headed and how regulations, especially in finance, currently work are sometimes at odds with each other. So I think people expect AI to help them make decisions. So people expect that if they give AI a loose intent, for example, for a trading strategy, it can sort of help you define that really crisply and say like, this is the way that you would trade your hypothesis. But regulation says that the customer needs to make every decision. And so if you just have a loose intent, somebody can't tell you this is the best way to trade that intent. You have to, maybe it can help you formalize that. It can give you ways to turn your hypothesis into a trading strategy. It can't tell you exactly what the right way is. And sometimes giving customers choice is A, contrary to expectations, because they expect the AI to think for them. And B, it can be overwhelming. Customers don't want choice. They just want something to tell them what to do. So, we're figuring out how to build great products that are also compliant. And, I'm sure compliance will sort of evolve as AI does, but I'd say that's one of the biggest non-technical.
It's almost a design challenge without precedence in a way. This is dynamic, fluid thing, customer experience. We're not sure what customers want. Jessica, biggest challenge for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, guardrails are a constant challenge for us, given the nature of the underlying technology. Like, AI is inherently probabilistic, right? And that is at odds with what the enterprise wants and needs, especially in specific functions or areas of the business. So trying to balance that and deliver quality output, it's like we're going to change the model on the back end, because if a new model performs better, then we want to plug that in. But that inherently means that maybe the responses in each scenario may shift and not be, that's what probabilistic really is. You're not getting the same outcome in a given scenario. So that's a constant challenge from a technology perspective. But I actually think the more surprising thing that I've learned in this role is that the technology and the model capability, the technology challenges are actually not the biggest blocker that we see. The companies that have had the most success with AI have a fundamentally different mindset at the top when it comes to how they treat the technology. And it goes back to that probabilistic kind of inherently uncertain nature of AI. The leaders that say, okay, I don't expect this new capability to be perfect, are the ones that are able to get started quicker and see more traction. They don't have this zero defect mindset that I think was okay to have with legacy software, but is just inherently not, doesn't jive with how AI works. They treat AI like they would a human employee in terms of, okay, we're gonna need to onboard this new thing, designer person and stay close to it, manage it more closely in the beginning, like you would a new hire. There's probably going to be a learning curve. There's going to be mistakes, and we can accept those mistakes. So the leaders that have that mindset create this psychological safety and trust across the business, where the AI is brought to life, and so folks can really experiment and start to learn and grow. So that's been my biggest learning.
I agree with that last part. I can add something onto there, which is that I think you sort of have to have that expectation Jess was speaking to, which is like AI is not going to be perfect 100% of the time, but in financial services, obviously that's problematic if the AI is not perfect and you trust it to do something for you. And so that's where I think we get around that problem by being super transparent with what the AI is doing and always giving you, as a user, a chance to kind of approve what it's doing. So if it writes you like an indicator script, we could abstract the code. So we could just make it such that you say, hey, this is what I want to see on my chart. Can you code that up for me? And it just shows you on the chart. But what we do is we do expose the code, and we give you a chance to sort of respond and say, hey, something I saw here wasn't quite right. And I think that sets the expectation with the user that this might not be perfect, but when it does work, it can save you enormous time.
Couldn't agree more. And on the mindset front, my personal philosophy is that when leaders embrace a curiosity-driven mindset, when encouraging experimentation, exploration, and questions, and even play, that unlocks the best results. We are out of time. Thank you both again. Please join me in thanking our panelists. Enjoyed.
Yeah.